do we have an open cabin? Do we have an open spot in our hearts and lives? Are we available? Are we leaving our doors unlocked for friendship, for ministry, for hospitality?
Welcome to this episode of The French Press. Let me pour you a cup of coffee while we talk about intrigues of faith, pages we've dog-eared, and the life in between on The French Press.
Thank you for joining me on The French Press, where I talk about books I've read, intrigues of faith, and the life in between. Today I'm going to be pulling from several books that I'm reading and including an article I read online. So that's a little bit different than I've done before. So I'm still in my devotional book that I told you guys about on the first episode, which was the Starting Today devotional that I pulled, or my son pulled out of the free library and basically made me read. And I've gotten so much out of it. I'm actually almost done with it. But one of the devotionals really hit me this week, and it's called Picking Out Pallbearers, of all things, kind of dark, but the premise or the idea behind it is this man was talking to someone else and telling him how he really kind of had his career under control and he felt like his family life was pretty good, but he realized as he was getting into older age that he hadn't really invested in friendships, and he had lots of acquaintances and lots of people he knew, but he didn't really have any deep friendships. He says, "My family life is in pretty good shape, but I've cut myself off from so many people who wanted to be my friends. I have scores of acquaintances, but hardly any bona fide friends. I'm not even sure I could name enough people to be pallbearers at my funeral who I could say we were really good friends." And so he's kind of saying, have you put value into friendship? And for some of you, you do put value into friendship. You spend a lot of time with friends, you cultivate relationships, you talk to people, you get together with people, and you probably could very easily name the 6 people to be your pallbearer. And others of you might say, I don't have time for friendship. I work full time, I have small children, maybe you're caring for a sick person, or just you have these really high demands on your life, and friendship just seems like that's one of the things that's going to fall away. And that's just sometimes the season we're in. Sometimes we are just in a place where you're kind of hanging on by a thread to a couple friendships and hoping they understand and hoping they'll be there when your life gets maybe a little more freed up. And there are those times. So if you're in that time, I definitely don't mean to make you feel bad by talking about friendship today or investing in people. So take it more as a challenge. Is there a little place you could carve out time if you're someone that's feeling like you just don't have time? Or is there a way you could coordinate people into your life? I think I talked about on the last episode, I found it to be a really fruitful time with small children because other mothers were looking for companionship with their small children, and you could join play dates and do park dates, and you can do Bible studies. And yeah, they're not the most in-depth because there's children running around, but you can still do it. You can still do something. You can still have those deeper conversations. Maybe you work full time, but there's a couple of people at work you kind of like, and you could say, hey, what if we did a little study at lunch? Or what if we do our coffee break together? Or something like that. Just looking for creative ways to pull time out. Or maybe you're someone that is just like, I'm not good at friendship. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to reach out. So wherever you fall in these categories, I think there's something for you in this. Definitely don't take it as I have to drop everything and work on my friendships. Take it more as, am I giving enough space for friendships and relationships? And of course, family comes first. And of course, we have to work and we have to do our jobs. But is there a time maybe instead of kind of zoning out with a movie or a book, you call somebody and chat instead? Or I like to go for walks, and even in the winter, and it's a great time to just call and chat with somebody, or just putting a group together and just fitting it into your life. So I liked how he talked about that he felt as if he couldn't come up with these people, and this grieved him. This made him sad, which is why this is even a devotional that he did. And he just talked about the value of friendship and saying, do you have people you can trust with the hard things in your life? When you need to talk to somebody and you need to be really real and be really honest, do you have people you can go to for that? And I know it's often our spouses and our parents or, maybe your children when they're adults. And those are great too. But friendship's a little different, right? It's usually like a peer. It's somebody that you're maybe going through the same stages of life together, and they may have insight that somebody that's family wouldn't. So there is value in friendship outside of even our immediate family circles. He talked about how people who don't value friendship won't form any. And having friends really is as simple as being genuinely friendly, caring, encouraging, ready to help others in their tough times. And so he's saying, by all means, don't play at friendships, put time into them. And the verse he uses in this one is from Acts 9, where Paul has friends that he has to escape prison, and they take him over the edge in a basket and they help him down the side of the wall so he can escape I honestly can't remember if he's escaping prison or if they're going to take him to prison. But anyways, it's in Acts 9, so you can read and find out the exact details on that one. And I thought, well, what an interesting play on words. So this devotional is called Picking Out Pallbearers, and then the scripture he puts with it is Paul, obviously spelled different, but people that bore Paul's trouble, right? They helped him. He had people he could reach out to and say, hey, I'm in trouble. People are after me. Something's going to happen to me. Can you guys sneak me out in a basket? In this case, can you sneak me out in a basket? And another story that comes to mind in the Bible is the man that's sick with palsy, and his friends want to take him to Jesus to be healed, but it's so crowded and busy they can't get in. So they go up on the roof and they pull back part of the roof and they lower him down to be healed. And I always think, wow, who doesn't want friends like that? Don't we want friendships that people are willing to say, we're going to get you in there no matter what. We're coming no matter what. We'll find a way. We'll take you down the wall in a basket if we have to save you. We'll pull back the roof and we'll lower you in and we'll get you to Jesus, essentially. We'll get you to safety. And don't we want friends who are willing to say that when we're going through a hard time? We want to have someone we can call who will say, yes, I'm coming with my basket and I will put you in it and I will lower you to the Savior. I will get you to safety. I will get you to God through my words, through my actions, and maybe it's just meeting someone for coffee or dinner who just is going through a hard time and they just need to be encouraged. And your words are that basket. You're going to put them in that basket of comfort. Or maybe they need something practical. Their life feels like it's spinning out. And if you could just come in and do a load of laundry and start dinner, that would make a huge difference. Or they have to be away and they need someone to help take care of their life and you could step in. There's so many ways, and it can be really small ways, like just being there through text or calling. And it can be really big ways, like showing up in a crisis and taking over and helping and being someone that they can be real with and they can talk to. And you can do the hard things, like say the things that maybe they don't want to hear. Maybe you need to go to God with this. Maybe you need to read your Bible. Maybe this is spiritual and not just in the physical. Being able to have those dialogues are so important. I know for me, I can get kind of in my own little world. I live in Michigan and we are going through just crazy snowstorms and we're all snowed in. And as I've talked about, I live in a tiny cottage and there aren't really any neighbors around here and it gets very isolated feeling. And so for the last week or two, I felt really kind of alone in my own little world. And it's not bad. I like to be alone. I enjoy alone time. But after a while, you kind of like it too much. And it just feels easier to I'll just stay isolated. I don't know how to talk to people anymore. I don't know what to do. And I think that's when it gets a little dangerous, right? Where we've either self-isolated, I'm not going to tell anybody what's going on in my life. They won't understand. Or, we're forced in it through our life situation. And we maybe need people to come to us if they can. Obviously not in storms, but just that feeling where I think after a certain amount of time passes and you felt isolated, either just from talking and seeing people or physically isolated, you kind of get comfortable with it. And that can be sort of a dangerous place because God did make us for relationships, right? He wants to be in relationship with us, and he wants us to be in relationship with other people, with our family and friendships. And sometimes we get so caught up in our duties, maybe like, well, I got to take care of these kids and I got to go to work and I got to do all these things I said I would do. And we let friendships sort of fall to the wayside. And I just think it's important to try to remember balance and to remember, like, maybe I can back off on work a little bit this week and meet a friend for dinner. Or maybe we can kind of get the families together and hang out, even though it's a lot of work and I have to clean my house. But that's going to be worth it to sort of get these families together. So I was thinking about that one, and then I had happened to read an article online, and it's actually, you can find it a lot of places. I found it on several websites, but this was by the writer and illustrator of the Peanuts comic strip, Snoopy, obviously, Charels Schulz. And he wrote an article, or maybe he just spoke this and people have written it. The premise of it is, who makes a difference in your life? And I pulled this up and I just felt like this went right along with sort of the pallbearers idea, who matters in our lives. And he says, think about if you can answer these questions, name the 5 wealthiest people in the world. Name the last 5 Heisman Trophy winners. Name the last 5 winners of the Miss America contest. Name 10 people who have won the Nobel Prize. Name the last half dozen Academy Award winners, this type of thing. And so you get the idea, like, who are the best of the best in their fields? They are really important in what they do. And yeah, we can probably all name 1 or 2 of them maybe throughout the years. I can't even name some of these at all. These are big deal people. They've won a lot of awards. But then he asks, now do this quiz for yourself. So you probably failed the last one, as I did. And then he has like kind of 5 questions to ask yourself. And I actually really enjoyed sitting down and doing this. So if you have a minute, you could even pull out a piece of paper or a journal and write the answers to these things, because I think they're interesting. So the first one is, list a few teachers, coaches, or instructors who have aided your journey through school. And I was easily able to come up with some teachers and coaches that I can still remember them. Maybe not their names, but I remember them. And they did make a difference. I had a teacher in junior high who really encouraged my writing. And I really felt like that was the first time I thought I could be a writer. And that class just really helped me. So just someone who encouraged you along the way. And then it says, name 3 friends who have helped you through a difficult time. I can certainly do that. I can certainly think of people who, when I needed prayer, they dropped everything and came over and they prayed over me, and it helped and it made a difference. And it felt like it broke some stuff off of me, some maybe lies I was believing or kind of like bad funnel thinking I'd gotten into. And just to have them pray and speak truth to me made a really big difference. And I've had people that have shown up and done things for me physically that just, I felt like everything was out of control, and they came and they brought dinner, or they helped me be able to go do some things, especially with young children. You can feel like you just can't accomplish anything. Or I hear this from people too who are caregivers and you just can never get away. And those people really make a difference and they help you. Number 3 is name 5 people who have taught you something worthwhile. I mean, I think of all the things my mom has taught me, my grandma, about God and the Bible. And I think, wow, what a privilege to be born in a family that loves the Lord and values the Bible and values Christianity. And maybe for you, it was a teacher or a friend or someone in your family. But just to have these people that taught you something really worthwhile, like to love the Bible, like what a great teaching. And number 4 is think of a few people who have made you feel appreciated and special. It could be your children, your spouse, maybe someone at work notices, hey, you're actually really good at this. You do a really good job leading or creating. Just having someone that sees the value in you and sees like, oh, I see how creative you are, or I see how gentle you are, or I see what a strong Christian you are, and notices that. And maybe we don't stop to think how special that is or how important that is, but people immediately come into my mind that have made me feel that way. And then it says, think of 5 people you enjoy spending time with. That I have little Bible study groups, and I have book club groups, and I have friendships and family. And I think I really like being with these people. We have a lot of fun together. We have really good, deep, interesting talks. This quiz I can ace because I have these people and I know these people and they matter to me. And I think it just really shines a light on or puts value on putting time in with people. And so it's kind of fun to take this quiz and remember these people. But it also is interesting to think of it on the flip side. Would you be the answer on somebody else's quiz? Are you someone that's teaching people something worthwhile? Are you getting together and teaching them about the Lord and how to understand the Bible and how to pray and just kind of how to do the Christian walk, especially in the hard times? Are you somebody that makes people feel special? That seems like a really easy one, right? But do we do it? Do we stop to look at the people we're hanging out with, our children, our family, our friends, our groups at church, our groups at work, and say, hey, I saw that thing you did. It was really great. Or I loved what you said, or I loved your speech, or look at how you decorate your house. This is amazing. It's so comforting and cozy in here. Or look at what a great cook you are. You brought food to this event and I really enjoy it. I mean, it's just such a simple little thing to take time. And then you would be the answer on someone's quiz of someone that made me feel special. Just being somebody that people enjoy spending time with. And I think we take turns in our friendships of maybe we fall apart in different increments and we help each other and it kind of goes back and forth. But ultimately, to be someone people enjoy to be with. Like, do you smile when you see them? Do you encourage them? Do you have good words for them? And not always, of course, sometimes you're the one that needs those things. But to just be a little more thoughtful about how we use our words and how we respond to people and how we make people feel. Even if we don't see them that often or know them, or know them that well, to welcome somebody into a group. Sometimes different places like work or church or school situations can get kind of cliquish and you've kind of got your friends and you don't bother with the other people. But even just looking past your own group and seeing somebody that looks a little out of place or a little unsure and saying, hey, come talk with us, or hey, come sit over here by us. That can make such a difference in someone's life. And to make them, enjoy spending time with you and being a good listener, all those things, they're so valuable. And I think we forget about them. In the other book I'm reading, I think it's based on a true story. I should have done a little more research, sorry. But it's called Mrs. Mike by Benedict and Nancy Freedman. It's a pretty old book. It was published in the 40s. I don't even know if you could find it. I think it's actually kind of hard to find. So I don't know if I'm recommending it, like go out and get it and read it, because you might not be able to. But it's been a really interesting book, and I pulled a couple things out of it this week to give you a brief premise. A girl, she's like 16, she's from Boston. She travels to the Northern Territory of Canada to stay with an uncle. And she ends up falling in love with a Mountie. And she's 16 and she marries him and she goes off up into the Northern Territory of Canada where there's just nothing. In fact, when she marries him and they leave, it's like a 2-month trek by dog sled to get to where he ends up being stationed in the territory. And so I really like stories like this. I like adventure stories. I love things that take place in the Arctic and the snow. I read a really great book on dog sleds called The Cruelest Mile. Don't remember the author. Sorry, I will look it up. But I just really enjoy dog sleds, and kind of the living in these like frozen tundras is just really fascinating to me. So this story had a lot for me. as a warning, if you do track it down and read it's a harsh life. It's a harsh life. Harsh things happen to animals and people, and that's a little hard to read at times, but the story is really interesting. So anyway, she goes off and she kind of writes her mom a letter and says, well, I got married and I'm leaving and I'm going off into this territory. And she takes off with this man she just married. She hardly knows him and doesn't know anybody on the trek, on the dog sled trek. Like, she knows nobody. And as you can imagine, she kind of has a freak out. Like, she gets really isolated feeling, just like we were talking about being isolated and snowed in. This is like that on steroids, right? Like, there weren't a lot of women. It's mostly men. It's like trappers and a lot of Indians. And there's hardly any women until she kind of gets to where they end up living. Then there's some women. But on this trek, there's 2 nuns that travel with her, but she doesn't seem to talk to them a lot. And that's it. And so it's just day after day, just sitting on this dog sled. She'd run on the side to warm up, and then she'd jump back on because she'd get so cold. And anyways, it's a wild story. And she kind of has a breakdown, as you can imagine. I mean, I would have had one on the first day, I think. My toes would have gotten cold, and I'd be like, well, take me back. So she ends up having kind of a freak out. One of her lungs freezes is kind of what happens. And she can't breathe, and she just kind of goes a little bit crazy. And so her new husband kind of says to her, I think I just have to take you back. You just can't handle this. This country is so hard on women. This is just a really hard life. And I just don't know if you can do it. And she's really sad about that and thinks, well, I want to be able to do this journey. And I kind of like what she says here. I thought it was interesting. So I lay there the second night in Taylor's flat and told myself, if you love Mike, this is her husband, you'll love the things that go with him. And if you can't love them, you'll understand them. And until you do, you'll keep the fight to understand them in yourself and not be carrying on and worrying him like you did tonight. I was cold and trembling under my covers for fear I'd talked to myself too late, that Mike really would send me back. So he says, I'm going to take you back. This is too hard for you. And she kind of just decides in this moment, she's going to do it. She got sick. She kind of went a little bit crazy, like you would, and he's going to take her back. And she realizes she doesn't want to go back. She wants to be married to him, and she wants to go deep into this Northern Territory and live this life. And she just kind of lost herself along the way. Totally understandable. I like how she just decides to do it. And I think sometimes we're facing really hard things, hopefully not a 2-month dog sled with a frozen lung. But we're facing really hard things, whatever it is. I mean, there's a million things: sickness, mental illness, depression, anger, a hard family life, a hard work life, financial problems. We're just facing these things, and they make us go crazy. Like, we feel crazy about them. And she decided to just do it. She's like, I just have to do this. This is the life that I'm in right now. And I'm going to learn. If I can't love it, I might not be able to love it, but I'm going to learn to understand it, and I'm going to learn to go with it. And that really struck me. And I just thought, what parts of my life maybe I don't love, but I need to understand. For instance, I married an entrepreneur. I really don't have the stomach to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty. I really would like a more regular, easy, predictable life. But this is what I married. I mean, we've been married 20 years almost now, so I'm pretty fine with it at this point. But in the beginning, it was really hard for me. And I just kind of like this mindset of, this is what we're doing, and I'm just going to do it. And maybe you're being called to move. Maybe you're being called to lead a ministry. Maybe you're being called to start a business. Or maybe your spouse is, maybe your wife is like, you know what, I think I have to do this thing. And you're like, oh, I didn't really sign up for that thing. I don't want to do that. But we're kind of in these relationships, and maybe your kids decide to, or your family or your friend or your church says, we're going to do this mission and we want you to be a part of it. And you're like, oh, that's not really what I'm into. But I just think I know she was called to this because this is what she goes on to do. And she had to kind of come to that time of just deciding to try to love what he loved about it, but also to try to understand it and to move forward in it. And I just really thought there was a great lesson in that. One more little section I'm going to talk about in this book. So when they finally get where they're going, and they're living up there, It's a very isolated life still, but there's a little community there, and she's made a few relationships, and she's kind of figuring it out. And then this horrible forest fire comes and just burns their village down and burns their house down, and they lose absolutely everything. So it feels like she's just getting started. She's just getting going. And nope, it's all gone. And how often in life do we feel that way? We think like, okay, kind of getting this. All right, I'm starting getting good at this job. Oh, now that job's been eliminated and you don't have it anymore. Or, oh, okay, I think I can do this ministry. Oh, no, we don't need that anymore. Or you just kind of figure out a phase in parenting and then everything changes. Or maybe a season in your marriage changes. Or you kind of feel like you're just getting into it and it's going, and then it all burns down and you have to start over. And you think, oh, I didn't see that coming. And I think for her, she was just kind of making a life. She's literally out in the gardening and kind of falling into her life. And then this fire just rages through in one day and takes everything. And people lose their lives, and businesses burn to the ground, and their cabin burns to the ground, and they have nothing, and they stay in the teepees with the Indians. And she's lost everything she ever had. Again, she already left it all behind in Boston, and then leaves it, at her uncle's house that at least had a little city. And then it's gone again. And she just has to keep overcoming these setbacks and these hardships. And how often do we feel this way? He gets called to a different village. So he's going to be moved. They end up not rebuilding their cabin, and they end up being called away, and they're going by canoe trip further up north to just another village, and she has to start over. And as they're traveling, this is really interesting to me. Everybody's traveling north and south and moving about, and a lot of them are trappers and traders, and so they're always on the move. And everybody just leaves their cabins unlocked and available for anybody who's passing by to stay in them. And there's like this little train of cabins that you can stay in. She would say there was usually like a sign painted sitting on the mantle that said something like, "You're welcome to stay in our house. Please just clean up when you're done." And she just found that really interesting, in that there was this train of houses that they could stay in for free. Everybody did it. Everybody left their cabins available to travelers. And many of them would actually leave cut wood and matches so they could build a fire. And they would leave canned goods so they could have a little bit of food. And there was just this hospitality of, you can use these places. And the idea of like, we'll use yours if we need it, and you'll use ours. And as we travel back and forth on our trading routes or our hunting routes, we can stay at these cabins. And it just made me think of our lives. And sometimes we get very like, this is my house, and this is my family, and this is what I do. And I go to work, and I go here, and I do these things. And we kind of forget to be open to hospitality. And some of you are great at it. I'm not. So I'm kind of speaking of myself, or I'm just like, oh, no one can come over, or my house is messy, or it's so small, or I don't know about that. And I think that idea of maybe not your physical house being open to people, but maybe your heart, maybe saying, you know what? I have a little room. You're on a spiritual journey and you're struggling, and maybe you just need like a warm cup of tea and a hot fire to sit by. I can do that. I can talk to you or meet with you or pour into you. And are we available to people? Are we leaving our doors unlocked for friendship, for ministry, for hospitality? Maybe physically, can people come over if they need to? Or are you too worried about how your house looks? I kind of fall into that category. Or can you meet someone for coffee? Or is your schedule too tight that you actually don't have the availability to, be able to do that? And sometimes we don't, but is there ever the option to say, hey, this week I can't, but can I do it next week? Or can we talk on the phone? I can talk on the phone with you. I can not do this chore or this thing I was going to do, and I'll talk to you instead. Do we have an open cabin? Do we have an open spot in our hearts and lives for the travelers who are going through? And sometimes it's people we know and love, and sometimes it's people we don't know that well. Sometimes it's somebody that knows somebody that would like to talk about God, and would you talk with them? Or, hey, would you do this thing at church? Can you make room for it? Or could you lead a little Bible study for these people? Could you make room for this in your life? I just found that a really interesting part of the story. So I will continue the story. I'm about halfway through, and we'll see what happens to Mrs. Mike. There was another little line in the book that I really liked. Her husband's a Mountie, and she's telling one of the other trappers, he says, well, why is he going up north? And she says, well, to deal with crime, of course. He's the police officer of northern Canada. And the guy says, there's no crime up here. It's as safe as God's pocket. And I really liked that saying, safe as God's pocket. So sometimes when things are hard or we're struggling, can we kind of get into God's pocket and just spend time in the Word, spend time in relationship with Him, praying and looking for maybe that open cabin, someone that can show us some hospitality, somebody who can be the answer to, is there someone that makes you feel special? Is there someone that taught you something worthwhile? Is there someone that showed up for you in a hard time? We can be that person, and other people can be that for us, which is why God made us for community and made us for these times. So I hope you enjoyed everything I shared today. If any of it blessed you in any way, please share this with somebody. Please rate this show a 5-star so it can be seen by more people. And most of all, please pray for me. Pray for this podcast. Pray just that I will be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and what He wants me to talk about, and keep going on this journey, looking for an open cabin to stay at as we go. I'm so glad you joined me today on the French Press. If you liked what you heard, you should follow me. That way you'll get all the latest episodes. And if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to rate the show. Also, if you'd like to follow my blog, The Demi-Tasse Drafts, I have a link below in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Anytime you can leave a like, comment, reshare a post. All these help my ministry get more traction. The most important thing you can do is pray. I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you for sharing a French Press with me today.